Committed to justice and protecting the rights of injured people.
No event changed the course of Black history in America more than the Civil War.
Washington was a very dangerous place to live during the Civil War.
Many of the people and places that triggered the conflict are found not far from home.
John Brown was a sensation. He was a lightning bolt that struck the heart of the United States.
And the Bethesda man whose life inspired a classic American novel.
Uncle Tom's Cabin was probably the most important book that's ever been published in the United States.
Then there's the D.C. fort where Lincoln almost got shot.
Fort Stevens is the actual battle that saved Washington.
The Fairfax Plantation where slaves worked the land and the house.
It's not just the history of the white guy who lived here.
And the United States colored troops who helped to end the war.
By 1865, 1 in 10 Union soldiers are prisoners.
It's no secret we live in a place rich in Black history. Our exploration of some of those sites will take us on a fascinating journey. But perhaps there is no place as beautiful as here, where two great rivers meet, the Shenandoah and the Potomac. Hi, I'm Robin Hamilton, and Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, attracted famous visitors even in our country's earliest days. Thomas Jefferson called it one of the most stupendous sights in nature when he came here in 1783. 20 years later, Lewis and Clark stopped here to pick up supplies before their historic expedition. But it was an event in 1859 that propelled this small, scenic town into the headlines of the Times and onto the pages of American history. John Brown's raid on the Harpers Ferry arsenal.
In 1859, there are 100,000 weapons stored here in this arsenal. That's enough weapons to arm our army in Afghanistan.
So how was Harpers Ferry's geography playing a role in its overall destiny in history?
Well, you really need to think about two words: water power. Water power.
Dennis Fry knows Harpers Ferry history like the back of his hand. He's been telling its story for more than 20 years.
And it was that water power that attracted George Washington to Harpers Ferry, and that very power, the energy of these rivers, that compelled Washington to consider Harpers Ferry as a location for a United States Armory and Arsenal. And it was the Armory and Arsenal, ultimately, that would bring John Brown to Harpers Ferry.
Located on the Mason-Dixon line in 1859, Harpers Ferry boasted a population of 3,000.
We actually had fresh oysters delivered here daily on refrigerated ice cars on the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. So this was not a primitive location.
Eager to abolish slavery, John Brown moved to this remote homestead outside of town that spring. His plan? To seize weapons from the arsenal at Harpers Ferry.
He needed several thousand of those weapons that would allow him to create a trained and armed guerrilla war force that would then make war on slavery in the South.
So on a Sunday night in mid-October, Brown and his followers stole into town. They quickly gained access to the arsenal, but things went wrong when a man got shot.
The first man who will be shot and mortally wounded in John Brown's raid to free the African American enslaved will be himself a free African American.
The doctor called to the scene later got away and sounded an alarm. When President Buchanan learned of the raid, he sent in the Marines, led by Colonel Robert E. Lee.
On the morning of October the 18th, Brown is completely surrounded. He has put out flags of truce. In every case, the men carrying those flags of truce have been shot down in cold blood, including one of his sons.
On Tuesday morning, Lee sent his young lieutenant, Jeb Stuart, to talk Brown into releasing hostages. When Brown refused, the Marines battered down the engine house doors, and Brown was taken prisoner in a matter of minutes.
And then ultimately he will be moved to Charlestown, the county seat, And there he will be placed on trial for murder, treason, and inciting slave rebellion.
While Brown has failed, his raid echoes far beyond the Blue Ridge Mountains of Harpers Ferry.
John Brown frightened Southerners in a way that no one could. The greatest fear in the South always was slave insurrection. And so the principal reaction in the South was literally massive armament and massive preparation for war.
Only 6 weeks later, Brown was sentenced to hang. On his way to the gallows, he handed a prophetic note to his jailer.
And what Brown wrote was this: I, John Brown, am now quite certain that the crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away but with blood. Many consider the outbreak of the Civil War occurring in Charleston Harbor in April of 1861. But if you look at it closely, the wheels that put all that into motion happen here at Harpers Ferry. Harpers Ferry is the ignition switch of the Civil War.
Coming up, the roads to freedom take us to Bethesda, the home of Uncle Tom's Cabin.
This Honoring Black History special on DCW 50 is sponsored by Novak.
You served 18 months for me, right? And it's time I start paying you back.
Have we met somewhere before? I go alone. We're not partners.
I wear the suit. I take the bullets.
I can't keep working for your approval.
Tonight at 8 on DCW 50.
The family that drays together stays together.
You keep me strong. I keep you strong? That's just what you say.
Blackish.
On DCW 50.
Reliable power from Novak keeps us connected to so many good things. Life-saving equipment and life-affirming moments depend on reliable, safe electricity that keeps us plugged in and powered up. And as a not-for-profit cooperative owned by the people it serves, Novak keeps rates low and service high. Novak, keeping life bright.
Popeyes presents the Popeyes Chicken Nuggets. The same quality and flavor as our chicken sandwich, bite-sized, made with 100% white meat, perfectly seasoned, freshly battered, and served with your choice of sauces. Get 8 juicy nuggets for just $3.99.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Tonight, I'll be eating a calzone from Sicilian Pizza in 8th Street Corridor. Rock on.
Tonight, I'll be eating lobster thermidor au gratin.
Really?
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt. Make it 2 calzones.
It's not quite March, but we're working like mad to come up with new slam dunk offers for hoop season. Want proof? New customers can bet $1 on any college or pro team to hit a three-pointer in a game and pocket $100 if they do. You heard that right, 1 single 3. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up with the promo code, bet $1 to win 100, and make it rain.
This Honoring Black History special sponsored by Capital Guardian Youth Challenge Academy.
If you live in Montgomery County, chances are you've passed this historic site hundreds of times and never even knew it was here. You have to look quick to catch the sign. But hidden behind these trees, just off of Old Georgetown Road in Bethesda, lies an American treasure, the original home of Uncle Tom's Cabin. By 1903, when Thomas Edison first portrayed it on the screen, most Americans already knew the life of a slave was harsh and inhumane. But 50 years earlier, when Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin was published, many found it shocking.
Here was the first time made available to the general public the real picture of enslavement and what enslavement truly looked like.
Stowe's classic eventually became the most popular book of its time, selling over 300,000 copies. Part of the popular NPR radio show, Backstory, University of Richmond president Ed Ayers evaluates its impact.
It reframes the whole debate over slavery in terms of mothers and children, and it touches the hearts of many people who had been immune to being touched by political arguments. It becomes the most popular play in 19th century America for generations afterwards. The scene that we remember the most today is Eliza and her baby escaping across the frozen river. That's what speaks to us today. A mother risking her life to escape the snares of slavery is the most enduring vision.
But when it was published serially in an abolitionist newspaper, Stowe's agenda aroused suspicion, and soon questions arose about the truth behind her novel.
She names Reverend Josiah Henson as her inspiration for the lead character, Uncle Tom.
Cheryl Spicer knows all about Henson. She manages the site where Uncle Tom's cabin once stood. Much of the 270 acres that were the original plantation have been lost to development. Back in the early 19th century, it was owned by Isaac Riley, and Josiah Henson acted as overseer to Riley's 20 or so slaves.
This plantation, during the time period when Henson is here, most of your primary crops are going to be your cereal crops. They're wheat, barley, corn.
Over time, Henson became a Methodist preacher and began to think about his freedom. Facing the danger of being sold down south, Henson and his family fled to Canada.
During this time period, 1830, in the United States, you could still, in a free state, be recaptured and then sold into slavery or taken back to your owners. So the only way to guarantee your freedom is to leave U.S. territories.
In Canada, Henson founds Dawn Settlement for escaped slaves and publishes his autobiography. After Harriet Beecher Stowe adapts his life story, he becomes a celebrity, reveling in his newfound fame.
Now the new moniker for him is Uncle Tom. He's like, yes, he'll embrace Uncle Tom because he can travel now to speak against the enslavement of blacks here in the United States.
For a close-up look at a more traditional Southern plantation, you only have to travel a little more than 20 miles on the Beltway to visit Sully Plantation. Here, the estate of Congressman Richard Lee spread over 700 acres. During his ownership, 80 to 90 slaves were on the property.
It's not just the history of the white guy who lived here. It's the history of everyone who lived here.
Today, 270 acres survive, complete with a smokehouse, a kitchen, and laundry, and a recreated slave quarters.
You had slaves that doing every aspect on the farm. You can spend an hour in the kitchen alone talking about what they were doing. People get fascinated by that, how laundry was done. So they get interested in how the people were doing these things and their lives. What were their lives like?
Damn you, I thought you knowed something. I did as instructed. If there's something wrong, it's wrong with the instruction.
You might wonder how much life at Sully Plantation resembled the harsh fate depicted in the movie 12 Years a Slave.
To be sold down south means to be sold into a very worse condition of enslavement in areas of like Georgia or Louisiana, where you've got sugar cane or cotton crops, tobacco, which are truly laborious crops and hellacious on the human body.
Here at Sully Plantation, they depend on letters and other official documents to interpret the lives of the enslaved persons who toiled here.
What we don't have here is any information how slaves were treated. We have nothing on that. Mr. Lee sold a 4-year-old, and Mrs. Lee talks about the ingratitude of slavery, and why would he want to run away? People can really get into the history and learn about it. We're telling you what life was like in Fairfax County at that time. Learning about the people who really made us the country that we are, you need to know.
Up next, the roads to freedom lead to Civil War Washington.
This Honoring Black History special sponsored by Capital Guardian Youth Challenge Academy.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Coming to you fresh-faced from home with new Lash Blast Clean Mascara. 10 times the volume, clean formula that's cruelty-free and vegan. Works for me, works for us, works for the planet. New Lash Blast, the clean mascara that works from CoverGirl.
In a world where temptation lurked around every corner, a league of Baby Bell cheese helped us realize another snack was possible. Baby Bell, join the goodness.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Did you know trading in your car at a dealer could cost you money? A recent study found consumers who trade in their car pay an average of $990 more. So don't trade in. Sell it to We Buy Any Car. Learn more and get your free online valuation now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Find out how much your car's worth at We Buy Any Car.
This month, we remember what matters most. Our families, our voices, our differences, and that what unites us. This month, we remember those who forged the path, who spoke against injustice, who fought to make sure everyone had their day in court. This month, we listen, we love, we celebrate, and we pay tribute to the African American struggle for equal justice under the law. We are the Cochran Firm.
So I said, serve my country and give my life structure. Win-win. What about you?
Well, I just wanted a great rate on an auto loan from PenFed. I can save thousands over the life of the loan, you know? So I just joined.
But you know, you don't have to be in or have served in the military to get a great rate from PenFed, right? Huh. Yeah. How about that?
Save big on your auto loan. PenFed has great rates for those in uniform and those who are not.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Have you ever noticed this stone house on Constitution Avenue and wondered what it was? In the early 1800s, it served as a lockkeeper's house on the Washington City Canal. Originally an extension of the C&O system, during the Civil War, it posed an unsuspected danger to life in our capital city.
It filled up during heavy rains. The primitive sewage system allowed runoff, and it became what was known as an open cesspool.
Historian Kenneth Winkle's fifth book on our most admired president, Lincoln's Citadel, chronicles the Civil War in Washington.
Disease was rampant. The Lincoln older son, Willie, died of typhoid fever when he was 11. President Lincoln himself contracted smallpox right after he returned from giving his Gettysburg Address. He was sick for weeks and he nearly died.
But the canal was hardly the biggest threat to the citizens of Washington. Sandwiched between Virginia, the country's largest slaveholding state, and Maryland, a free state, the capital's position was strategically perilous. So, President Lincoln devised a plan. By 1865, more than 68 forts formed a protective ring around the city. There are remnants of them dotted around modern D.C., like this park in Northwest that was once part of Fort Reno. Not far from the Red Line's metro stop, you can enjoy the park that was once Fort Totten. But perhaps none was more crucial to victory than Fort Stevens.
These soldiers were as close as just 2 miles away, and their goal was to seize the White House.
Union soldiers at Fort Stevens successfully defended Washington against the advances of Confederate General Jubal Early's troops.
Fort Stevens is the actual battle that saved Washington.
Its earthworks now recreated to resemble the grounds during the war, Fort Stevens is also where another little-known incident could have changed the course of history.
It is the only battlefield where there was a sitting president came out, heard word that General Early's folks were headed in this direction, and he came out to see for himself.
As this marker commemorates, Lincoln stood atop the parapets to take in the view. His lanky frame made even taller with his trademark top hat, he provided an excellent target. A Confederate marksman took aim and barely missed the president.
There's an old wives' tale that someone shouted, "Get down, you darn fool," before he was actually tackled to the ground and avoid that shot. There was a physician here. He was up on the top of that parapet with the president, and that physician took a shot and ultimately died of those wounds.
Elsewhere, the war transformed the city by sheer numbers. The pre-war population of 60,000 was soon joined by 100,000 soldiers and 40,000 fugitive slaves.
Washington was the main supplier for the Army of the Potomac. Week by week, tons, even millions of tons of war material poured through the city. Horses by the thousand, munitions. There were 3 arsenals that were very dangerous.
Some of Washington's best-known landmarks became part of the supply chain.
In the basement of the Capitol, a bakery produced 60,000 loaves of bread every day. The Union Army brought thousands of cattle to the National Mall, and they surrounded the half-finished Washington Monument.
During the war, many fugitive slaves worked behind Union lines to support the troops. After the Emancipation Proclamation, they were free to become soldiers. Up next, on the roads to freedom, the story of the United States colored troops.
When they were ready to fight, they participated in over 30 battles over the next 2 years.
My name is on the front, but I'm more proud of the back. Sikis, 40% less sugar and more protein than the leading Greek yogurt.
I wasn't sleeping well, my neck would be stiff.
I had memory foams, I had feather pillows, and I'd always wake up with neck pain, and I had constant headaches. After sleeping on my pillow, I didn't wake up with the headaches, I was more aligned, everything felt good.
I didn't realize the connection between the pillow and sleep. When I switched to my pillow, I got a better night's sleep, and I love it.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of My Pillow. I want you to get the best night's sleep of your life. For a limited time, you can get my premium My Pillows for the lowest price ever. Regularly $69.98, now only $29.98 with your promo code. Only $29.98. That's a $40 savings. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it holds that support all night long to take the pressure off your shoulders and keep your neck aligned regardless of your sleeping position.
My Pillow is machine washable and dryable and comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee and an amazing 10-year warranty. Plus, every premium My Pillow is made in the USA. For a limited time, you can get a premium My Pillow for the lowest price ever. Regularly $69.98, now only $29.98. That's a $40 savings with your promo code.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows and nothing's worked like My Pillow.
I personally guarantee that My Pillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own. And to help you sleep better, I'm offering you my lowest price ever. Only $29.98 for a queen-size premium My Pillow.
Call or go to MyPillow.com to take advantage of Mike's best offer ever. Use the promo code on your screen to get a queen-size My Pillow premium for only $29.98, regularly $69.98. Get a king size for just $5 more. It's the lowest price ever, only $29.98. That's a $40 savings. This is a limited time offer and not available in stores. Don't delay, order now.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
DCW 50, honoring Black History Month, sponsored by Science and Kirk.
Welcome to Theodore Roosevelt Island. You may know it as a nature preserve in the middle of the Potomac River, but during the Civil War, it was known as Mason's Island, and it was the training ground for the United States colored troops. After the Emancipation Proclamation, African Americans could officially enter the Union Army, and more than 200,000 men enlisted. Many had been waiting for years to join the ranks.
The Within 3 weeks of Virginia seceding, 3 black men risked their lives to get to General Benjamin Butler in Norfolk and say, "We're on your side." After centuries of slavery, in 3 weeks, black men began to show their support for the Union.
Still, the Union was reluctant to allow blacks to contribute to the war effort.
And that resistance from their fellow white soldiers, they met white Confederates who were refusing to treat them as combatants of war that would kill everyone, even when they tried to surrender. So it's an enormous outpouring of patriotism for people who have every reason not to feel patriotic toward this country.
Emmanuel Dabney works as a ranger at Petersburg National Battleground Park, where the United States Colored Troops, or USCT, had some of their finest moments, despite widespread racism by both North and South.
Whites could only be the commissioned officers. There was a lot of concern that black men wouldn't actually fight. Some people still were never convinced that these black men would make good soldiers and in turn good citizens.
Until the final months of the war, most blacks were consigned to support jobs like cooking, serving officers, and cleaning up the battlefields.
Most whites, North and South, thought that blacks, especially black men, should remain as demilitarized as possible from their previous fears about slave insurrections.
Here at Petersburg, the Union Army assigned the largest concentrated group of the USCT. The siege of Petersburg waged on for more than 9 months.
It'll give the North and the South an opportunity to see what it is that these armed black units are actually going to be able to do on battlefields. In the opening assaults on Petersburg, the U.S. Colored Troop Division will end up capturing about 1.5 miles of the Confederate defenses on the eastern side of Petersburg.
Today, this monument commemorates the Battle of the Crater. Here, the USCT's record got mixed reviews when Union troops failed to capture the city.
And it's another moment that the white press in the North, who is not in favor of U.S. colored troops, uses as evidence that black men could not make good soldiers, and that they in fact had impeded the progress of white Union soldiers.
As the siege continued, the USCT faced the enemy here again in a battle fought in the earthworks known as Battery 9.
U.S. colored troops performed admirably under severe and intense artillery and musket fire, and they captured parts of the Confederate defenses.
United States colored troops are one of the most remarkable stories of the Civil War. White Americans have tended to forget for a very long time that black people helped win the war, helped save the nation. Even with one insult after another, the courage and self-sacrifice that these soldiers bring is one of the remarkable stories of the war.
We hope you've enjoyed Roads to Freedom and the famous and not so famous local places that bring Civil War black history to life. I'm Robin Hamilton. Thanks for watching.
Family that drays together stays together.
You keep me strong. I keep you strong? That's just what you say.
Blackish.
On DCW 50. DCW 50 honoring Black History Month, sponsored by Capital Guardian Youth Challenge Academy, an opportunity for a second chance. You're watching DCW 50, Washington CW. Sponsored